Welcome everybody, and Frank Paulino. And I'll be doing this session with how I modified my inbox to reveal dangers, spoofing, phishing, and costly fraud. First, I'd like to thank our sponsors who helped put this together and pay for it. I know a lot of these sponsors from working in Notes and Domino over the last 20 years, people like Crossware, Pangenda, Prominic, who's done a lot of work. We host with them, Whitetria, and of course, HCL Software, who nicely bought Notes and Domino and doing some nice improvements to it. So thanks, everybody. We appreciate that. A little bit about me. We've been a Lotus Notes business partner since 1996. I founded Maysoft at that time, and we've worked with Domino for about 25 years. Our flagship product is an anti-spam product called Spam Sentinel, and we'll block billions and billions of spam messages for our customers worldwide. I basically fixate on all things email, trying to make it better. And my latest work is detecting these very dangerous spoofing and phishing messages. Unfortunately, we haven't always been able to block them, which makes me not too happy. And that's what I'm working on. So this is my inbox. I'm going to show you what I did to try to reveal phishing, fakes, and fraud. For a quick background, before I get into the demo with the inbox, spammers are marketeers. They're salespeople trying to sell you something. Phishers are crooks. They're trying to steal from you. That's an important distinction because their techniques are similar. They get via email, but the result they want is totally different. And the phishers are very, very, they're crooks. They're bad people, basically. And they want to steal credentials from you. They want to steal money with fake invoices, wire transfers. They want to lock up your machine with ransomware and steal with a ransom. And the latest technique is data exfiltration for a ransom. And what they're trying to do there is they copy your data offsite to one of their servers and give you a ransom. And restoring from backup won't fix this problem because they already have your data. So that's the latest, and it's not good. And they're making a lot of money doing this, which is why they continue doing it. So email phishing, fakes, and fraud falls into the general category of business email compromise. And some quick stats, 3.5 billion were lost to these scams in 2019, according to the FBI. And their main focus of attack is email. 93% or so all email attacks come through, phishing attacks go through email. They have other techniques, but email is the most effective. And a classic one, and everyone's concerned of, is the CEO fraud. You have a domestic wire, $50,000, it has to go out today. Typically, the ask is for a large amount of money, like $50,000. It generally looks like the display name looks like someone internal, but it's often an external email address, which is difficult to detect, but I'll show you in a few minutes. There's lots of ways you can fix that. It's a correct email, but a fake reply to address. That's common, and it's always urgent. You have to act right now. Why do you have to act right now? Because they want you to act before the scam is caught. They don't want to get caught. So the faster you act, the more hasty you are, the better their chance of stealing from you. The current best practice is security training, hover over links. You've heard all this. Don't click links, don't download. If in doubt, delete it. Or some penetration testing where they send you an email, and if you click on something, they whack you over the head with it for making a mistake. But invariably, someone clicks on that link. And the scary part is this costs a lot of money in terms of time and effort. And also, besides the ransom, there's lost productivity, and it can create a huge problem for the IT staff. So one of the techniques they say is, look at the source of the message and figure out if it's really internal. If I told my users to do that, they'd have a rebellion. No one wants to do this. Those of us here are technical who can figure this out, but it's still complicated. But this was the germ of the idea. What if I could expose some of this information that I look at to my end users so they don't have to go digging through, and I can help them out? And that's where I started getting into hacking my inbox. So the first thing most people do is they put the word external in, and they say, this is external. Don't click the links unless you know it's safe. They put it in the subject and the message body. Now I'm going to switch to my actual inbox. So here's that message. Let's go to, let's see if we get the external one. Here's the external one. This is good. It says it's external, so you know it's not from an internal person. But when you reply to any of these, because it's in every message, it ends up being in the reply body and ends up being in the subject. And it's really a messy way to do it, but it does help somewhat. But I can show you many examples of this. It's not, in my opinion, the best way to do it. So what I decided to do was modify the notes template, hack my inbox. I know that sometimes, to many people, don't touch the notes template, but the reality is there's a lot you can do there. And I decided it was worth making the change. And I think some of this, the modify notes template, was a throwback to IBM support. Didn't want to support if you touched the template. But there's a lot of people do modify it, and that's what we did too. So let's take a look at that. So let's go. This is my slide, but I'll go back to the actual live mail file. Let's go to that message. So here it is, actually in the design of the notes mail template. It's a pretty simple thing. I'll show you in a second how I did it. It's very easy. This is how soon can you process the wire? So if I reply to this, it's because it's in the design of the mail template, it doesn't get copied and forwarded around, which is great. And now that a user knows this is external, and that's a big step forward. And it really led me to the big aha moment, which was where everything started to change on this whole Skunkworks project. Was I really want to identify the good mail. What do I mean by that? There's a million ways phishers can pretend to be someone they're not. They can pretend to be anyone. They can change the subject, the body. They can change everything. But good senders don't need to hide. So if it's from a valid sender, they don't try to pretend they're someone else. If it's an internal notes mail message, that's very easy to identify. That's easier than identifying all kinds of bad actors. So once I flipped this around, it actually the project started to take some interesting shape. So back to my notes mailbox, I flipped it around. Instead of saying external for messages, I showed all the internal messages from internal staff. So if it's from someone internal, it says internal notes, 100% sure it's internal. So whatever kind of format of bad stuff comes out there, if it doesn't say internal notes, don't trust it. And it was really a breakthrough moment. And I'll show you, this was an easy hack. I'll show you the quick part of the design. This isn't a design class, but all I did was look for the field SMTP originator, which is only on inbound messages. Notes to notes messages don't have that field. So I basically have a couple hide ones. I have others I'll show you in a minute, but it was really that simple to show internal message. So here's that slide. So I looked at my mail file for the last year, and roughly 60,000 messages, and around 40% were internal. So those are 40% I don't have to think about anymore. And most people have similar ratios of their files between internal, outside brand senders, which I'll cover, contacts, and external. But if you look at it, you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Is the bottom three categories I can identify. So now I'm down to 9 out of 60,000. So, a much smaller percentage that's going to give me a little more problems, but I'm going to eliminate all of these soon by showing the good senders. And this is where it gets interesting. So here's an external sender, a friend of mine, who sends me my weekly joke, which I appreciate. And I'll show you what happens with him now. So external sender, that's what I just showed you. But I said to myself, he's in my contact list, isn't he? That's information I know that would be interesting to show up here in my little header. So I added that into the design. I did a quick DB lookup into the contacts. Took me about 5 minutes to put this in. It's not beautiful, but I'll show you when we start cleaning this up. I said, what else do I know about this person? Well, I'll check my sent folder. It's interesting. I've sent them 19 emails. That tells me a lot too about this relationship, because Identifying the good person is easier, and there's much more information that's available to them. And the last thing is, well, is it really from Tom or is it someone else? What if it's someone pretending to be Tom? All these numbers will still be true because they sent Tom an email. I thought about that. I said, that would be easy for me to be fooled, because I say, oh, it's 19 emails, it's my friend, and I click on a bad link. So I did one more thing. I did an SPF check. And I'll talk about SPF in a second, but this actually verifies it really came from Tom. So netting all that out, I'll show you back to my PowerPoint. I netted out to just SPF pass and sent mail or is in contacts. So this is a known sender, someone definitely from Tom, and it's someone I have a relationship with. So that actually eliminates a large chunk of people that are what I call known contacts. So sender identity is a generic term I use for SPF and DKIM. There's a lot of them. This isn't a training session on those, but I'll give you a quick overview. SPF basically says the server that sent this mail is authorized to send the mail for HCL or Prominic or Whitetree or anyone else who's sending me email. So there's two basic things that are useful in this process, in this project, is SPF pass means it really did come from HCL or, again, all those other people, or SPF fail, it did not come from them. Those are the clear demarcations. SPF fail is definitely bad. SPF pass is definitely good. There's other categories, which is none, which is a problem. A lot of senders still don't use it. So that's not helpful, but it is real helpful in this example, and I'll go on and explain why. SPF is very good at detecting the good mail. To get SPF working, we had to build our own little add-in for the Domino server, and it's a critical component. It checks every inbound message and says, is this really from the sender? And we did this by adding some stamps in here, two different, from the envelope from, which is the technical term. It's actually what you see is from in your mail message. Sorry, you see as SMTP originator is the envelope from. And then the from is the field you see from in the mailbox. And those are both important. And the ones that get spoofed most, of course, is the from, because they can write anything they want in the from. It's not actually validated. So the inbox modifications I wanted to do, and I kept working on, was to expose these fields to the end users and help them identify the good mails. And we end up kind of thinking of it as like a little display panel to tell them what we know about the message that they can't tell just by opening the mail. So for SPF, these brand name senders are very, they're good. They conform to all the rules. But interestingly, these are also the most spoof senders. You've all seen fakes probably from almost all these sources. And this is the area that we can really nail clearly. I'll show you why in a second. Again, the bad people who are pretending to be Amazon, banks, etc., are crooks. They're pretending to be someone they're not. They're con men, con artists, if you will. And they pretend to be all these companies, and everyone gets messages from all these categories. Some people get them daily. If you're in shipping or whatever, you might get a lot from DHL, FedEx, etc. If you buy things online, which most people do, you're getting these messages, and the con artists are hoping that they send you their bad message around the same time you just bought a package. So you say, oh, there's my delivery for that package. And most of us have seen them get lucky and they time it just right. And if you click on it, it's not good news. So looking at how we might identify brand senders, I'll go back to my notes database and switch over to, let's get to that one, skip this one, here we go. So here's a FedEx shipment. I look at this, external doesn't tell us anything. All FedEx is external unless you work there. So this is external, doesn't tell us much. So we keep going and we look at SPF pass, that tells me a lot. Now I know this is really from SPF, and I know I can click on the links and not be afraid. So this whole thing, you don't have to click on links. It's true if you don't know who the sender is, but if we can confirm it's the valid sender, then you can trust this email. So again, I have this little thing to hide it, kind of demo. If you hide it, no idea. Show alerts, it's safe, it's external, but it's safe. It's from FedEx. Let's see, where's the next one? So I want to make it a little nicer looking. So I said, I'll put the FedEx logo in there. That's nice. It looks much clearer. And actually that helped a lot. So anytime you get a message, what I do is I look for the logo. If I see the logo, it's from FedEx. And this space is controlled by me or us, so that I know that whatever appears is true. Down here, anything can be true or false. It's not clear. And back to my design, I'll show you down here. Here you can see some of the logos we put in there. Obviously, this isn't a permanent approach, and I'll go on to how we, because I can't put every logo in here, and I'll show you that in a minute. Let's see. So if you get a bad one, we basically can show it as possible phishing. So if it's an SPF fail, we can I put a basic phishing logo in here to identify this is SPF fail. So here's an interesting one. This looks like FedEx, but it says FedEx delivery, but it's actually from this name and it passed SPF, because the bad people are learning if they put SPF, some people might trust it. And we've found the best way to use SPF is in combination with known good senders. So trust SPF from FedEx, but these other people, you don't trust it if you don't know the sender. So if you don't know who the sender is, you can't trust it, because it can still be a malicious message, which this one was. This came from this address, and they just copied. It's so easy to copy a mail message. They just copied a mail message. So here's a PayPal message. It's now clear that it's from PayPal. Bank of America, excuse me, Bank of America. And I've done a bunch of these. Amazon. So really, I can slide through them too. I think it's nice looking in the mailbox because it's. So here's that pass, but again, no logo means it's not from FedEx. If it was from FedEx, it would say FedEx here and it would be trusted. So identifying the good mail helps. Identifying the bad mail, again, it's infinite, but the good mail is very, very finite. We can work with that. So here's, again, just quickly going through. It really is nice. And again, if you hide it, you don't know if this is real or not. This one's not terribly dangerous, but there's a lot more that can be scary. So then we had to switch we realized that logos thing wasn't a good idea in the inbox. So we actually made a separate external source, and we kind of cleaned it up a little bit because it was getting too much. So this is just really one line in the mailbox to reference this external, but it has the same elements as the logo. We put a little verified stamp to reinforce it. We actually put a link to the actual company name. So if you can actually, if you're still nervous about clicking on links, because we've been trained so much on that, where'd it go? It's over here. So it'll just launch the FedEx website. So we did put that up here, and we also put their corporate name just to make it kind of clear. And to do that, we actually went through, I'll show you this too, which was, where are we here? So we actually it turned into a bigger project than one. Once we started getting into this, we realized who are the good senders that we want to identify that can be forged. And we went through the list of who the most common senders are. And we actually started building this database of their logos, their names, their websites, and how they typically send mail. And of course, during the COVID, CDC was being faked all the time because people said, new directive from CDC, click here to read about it. And so we started we have the FBI, IRS, US government organizations, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't do the whole list, but it's an extensive list, and it was necessary to continue this project to show the good mail. So I'll show you some of those. They show up here. Actually, this is a phishing one. This is from FedEx. It wasn't from FedEx, so we marked it as phishing. Here's that same one that passed SPF, but it wasn't FedEx. So again, if you don't see the logo, it's a fake. PayPal. So these are the same ones I showed you. This is actually live in a mail file. So here's a few other interesting ones. These are common password update notice. It allegedly comes from me to myself, I guess. So that's a pretty clear violation. But you get a lot of messages from yourself to yourself. And unless you have an SPF checker, you're not going to be able to recognize these. But with this turned on now, I can quickly identify this as phishing. If I roll over this, it's going to storage.google APIs, which is definitely a malicious download. So this is bad news. There's a whole bunch of these. I'm not going to show you every phishing I got, but voice messages are common. Most people use voicemail. This is Firebase storage, another bad site. So it blocks all these what we call own domain phishing or malware attempts. Yeah. And really, back to where we started, here's an internal mail message, and now internal mail message is clearly defined. When you see internal email, it's internal 100% of the time. So back to the, I think I skipped through most of these already. Yep. So iNotes. This was the least. We said, well, if we're going to do this and people are going to use iNotes, we need to be iNotes compliant. I would rather have had a root canal than dig into iNotes, but we did, and it was painful, but I'll show you what it looks like. It works now, but it was a lot of work. So here's our iNotes database with the same logo at the top. So you can see this is internal. My friend who sends the joke, this is external. I won't do every one of them, but I can show you some of these. FedEx. That's a phishing one. This is really from FedEx. It's verified, etc. So we got iNotes working. Again, it was a lot. iNotes, you can modify it, but it's not as easy as modifying the mail template. But we did it for consistency. So we do those. Okay, so basically to net it all out, it took we tried a lot. I didn't share all the things I tried because I could have spent 3 or 4 hours on that. We spent days trying to figure this out. But we basically said, look for the logo. If you see the logo, you can trust these 100% of the time. So in the 2 big categories of brand name senders, which I showed you a bunch of those, and then internal email, which is who they're generally, for the internal, besides the CEO, there's also payroll and people writing checks. We heard a story of someone who actually gave all their payroll data to a bad actor who then used it to forge their identities, and it caused havoc. It was a good sized company too. So with these 2 alone, you can really, really tighten it down. The bad actors are finding ways every day to find new attacks, but these 2 points will no longer be attacks they can take advantage of. So how to implement this? Most of the hack I did is really in one subform. We got it all down to one subform, and internal senders are immediately identified because we can recognize the notes fields on that document. That was easy. We can provide a notes template to anyone who is interested with the critical design elements. We have a SPF checking domino add-in available as well. And the best part is we're not a sponsor, so we can't sell, but they didn't say we couldn't give things away. So we're going to give everyone watching this session now a free personal copy, but maybe you want a little bit more than that. So we can use it for, say, 4 other friends in your organization, like a 5 users. It's not a product that we're selling or anything. We're literally just got it together. We want to kind of play around with it and see who wants to use it and give us feedback, find out where it works, what we can do to improve it. So we're interested in some beta testers for that, and in a second I'll show you how to contact us. So here's the SPF checker. Maybe it's a lot to take in, but basically we built this little add-in, and then into the Domino server, we figured we need to control a little bit better than just have a check. Checking all SPF messages just as a start is a non-starter. If you block all SPF fails, you're going to get a mess. So we generally recommend only blocking SPF for brand name senders or anyone, of course, internal. And that really kind of simplifies it. We did make a little notes front end to it. It wasn't terribly difficult. And we did make a list of the brand name senders that all use SPF correctly, and it'd be safe to block SPF fails from these senders. And that's turns out to be a pretty big win. So here's how to contact me if you want to get a display template and SPF checker. This is my email, frank@masoft.com. I'm not sure it's in the meeting notes. But feel free to send me an email, and we're putting some pieces. We're still playing with it, but if you're willing to be a beta tester, we're willing to send you some early code and play around with it.